During this interview, any mention of U.S. Department of Defense information does not imply or constitute Parallax Advanced Research's APEX program speaking on behalf of the Department of Defense. Today on the show, strategy plus action equals working effectively with the Air Force.
Success in business and life is a constant back and forth of charting your course and taking the consistent steps every day to move you forward. Both are critical. My guests on this show range from hardworking entrepreneurs starting from scratch to visionary leaders of cutting-edge companies looking to scale. I help you understand the strategies that are working for them and the actions you can take to model their success. For me, a show like this is all about joining forces with my guests to dig deep and create something new for you. Whether that's a small insight that gets you unstuck or a path of massive growth through customized marketing and creative sales initiatives. Welcome to Strategy in Action.
Welcome to episode 34 of Strategy in Action. I'm your host, Jason Croft, and today on the show, I've got Dr. Kathleen Gilpin and Chris Mather. They're with a program called APEX. APEX is all about pairing entrepreneurs and universities with the Air Force. This is an exciting topic for me because I've had my eyes open recently to all the new opportunities that are out there for entrepreneurs to work with the armed forces really faster and more efficiently than ever before. A lot of the branches are really looking for that next new innovative solution to a variety of problems, and they realize that the private sector is an amazing source for a lot of those solutions. So they're not only out there looking, but they're changing the ways that they look and the ways that they're open to working with those entrepreneurs, as well as the university sector, the world of academia. There's a lot of resources there, and what APEX does too, not only working with entrepreneurs and working with universities, but pairing them together and creating those alliances through the networks that they have to then go and work with the Air Force. So it's an amazing topic. So many insights from them on this. Let's jump in. Welcome, everybody. Dr. Kathleen Gilpin and Chris Mather are here with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, indeed. This is a fun topic. This is honestly this is the stuff that I get excited about. If anybody watching has checked out David Shaw's episode with the Stroppy, and he really opened my eyes to working with the government overall, different military branches, all of that, just the new possibilities. I think we all have preconceived notions, if we haven't done it and gone through that process of just, that's not something I want to deal with. And then I found out, through David, wow, there's a new world out there when it comes to this. And that's why I was excited to talk to you both about your program, APEX. I want to definitely get a high level overview of what that is right now. And then we'll kind of dig into the background. And, you're really helping folks essentially do business with the Air Force in particular. And I want to dig in today and dive into why that's a good idea. People, especially with people and businesses who probably aren't considering that, I think is exciting to just open up those new doors of possibilities. So, Kate, why don't you let us know what APEX is all about?
Sure. APEX stands for Academic Partnership Engagement Experiment, and we are a partnership intermediary for the Department of the Air Force. That means that we work in between the Department of the Air Force, which includes the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force, and the industry partners that are trying to do business with the Department of Air Force. So we sit in between those two organizations, trying to help both out. And one of the most common ways we help the small businesses is through the SBIR STTR program, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more as the conversation goes on. But we offer a variety of services that are funded by the Department of the Air Force to help small businesses as they try to do business with the Air Force.
So this is exciting. I think the first thing that's popping into my head with APEX is what's the business model here? How is APEX making money and being able to provide all these resources for entrepreneurs?
Well, APEX is a program underneath Parallax, and Parallax Advanced Research is a nonprofit research institute. APEX is the partnership intermediary, and we are funded by the Department of the Air Force. So the Department of Air Force has funded APEX specifically to help them as part of their 2030 strategy, their science and technology 2030 strategy. And our success is really the small business and the university entrepreneur success. So we work very hard to make sure that they are successful, because if they're successful, then the APEX program is successful, and it's a win-win all around.
So that means that for the universities and the entrepreneurs, it's no cost to them to go through this process, correct?
That is correct, yes. For the university and the small business entrepreneurs that are utilizing APEX services, it's a no cost to them because we are funded by the Department of the Air Force.
Nice. And what is that main, like, how are you getting in front of those businesses and grabbing that attention right now?
We do a lot of outreach on the national scale. So we outreach to universities. We also outreach to small businesses. Really, one of the highlights of the Department of the Air Force Cyber program is the fact that they have tried to reduce the barriers to entry. So we have a lot of opportunity to outreach to the small businesses and university partners who have never done business with the government before. And we do this through all of the typical means you would think, essentially cold calling. But of course, we do it via email. But will send out an email that to target it to principal investigators at universities and small businesses that are doing something related to the Air Force. Of course, there always has to be an identified need or an identified solution for a Department of Air Force problem, quote unquote problem. But there are many, many different ways that small businesses can provide those solutions. So any small business that's providing a technology that could in any way be useful to the Department of the Air Force, we can outreach to them and help them along their way through the cyber journey, really.
Fantastic. And Chris, what is your specific role there with APEX?
Well, as Kate mentioned, we get involved in the middle and help entrepreneurs out. I focus on the entrepreneurial side. So I do some work when we're not in the middle of a solicitation, which is when the Air Force says, hey, we're open to proposals. I do some work with universities and outreach at those times. But usually what I'm spending my time on, like we're in right now, a solicitation that's due in February, with helping entrepreneurs get ready for that for whatever that communication vehicle is. In some cases, it's a white paper. In other cases, and mostly with the open topics, it's often just a slide deck. So it sounds very VC-like. So I get involved. That's been my specialty in my career, and is helping people raise that venture capital and how they communicate. And it's very, very similar. But you have to communicate for the Air Force in very specific ways. And we provide services to help those entrepreneurs do that and to help them navigate through the process.
What's the, I would say, sort of the percentage split of doing the more request for proposal, when the Air Force says, hey, we need this, and you're going out trying to match, and then sort of going out to entrepreneurs in general to say, what you're doing right now would be a great fit for the Air Force. Have you thought about that? What's sort of that? Is it kind of a 50-50 split?
I would say that probably people are interested in general, but they don't understand what's called the open topic. And the open topic is, as Kate mentioned, is very, very, it's just that. It's an open topic. It's open to anything that can solve a problem for the Air Force. So we have a lot of people who say, do I fit? So we have them come into our program, and we kind of have to evaluate, because there are cases where somebody really isn't a fit. And if I talk to them and say, I just don't see how you could sell this as a solution to the Air Force. So say a software as a service solution that's completely towards consumers. There's no way the Air Force can use it. That would not fit. Often, though, they do fit. So I would say that it's a broad mix, and it's really hard to even say, because you have people who've done SBI or STTR for years, and all of a sudden they're dealing with a different approach. And some have struggled with that because they want to keep doing it the old way, and the old way doesn't work in this program. Then you have people who are aware of it but aren't really sure where to go. And then we have people. I dealt with an entrepreneur just last week where she has a solution that came to me through another channel. And I said, we have this Air Force program that you really could be a fit for. And when we talked about it, she's extremely interested now in proposing. And that happens to me often.
Oh, wow. So, and you mentioned that new approach. So is that sort of what you're really helping navigate? Is there a completely different approach that the Air Force is taking in terms of, doing work with the private sector?
We do both because the Air Force for a long time, the most recent solicitations up until just now have been mostly the open topic. So to give you a difference, at one solicitation 2 years ago now, the Army had 320 specific topics. So the Army was saying, here's a problem, how would you solve it for us? The Air Force had about 7 of that equivalent, but the Air Force gets more money. So everything else for the Air Force in that particular solicitation was the open topic. So you have to go about that. The Air Force is not going to tell you in that case, here's the problem. They're going to say, you tell us what problem you solve for it, and who might you solve it for in the Air Force. Whereas now, in this particular solicitation, there is no phase 1. There's an open topic direct to phase 2. But now they've kind of gone back and had some more specific topics. So there's a number, I think, 50 or 60 range, I believe, of specific topics that the Air Force is asking for help with. So it does vary by solicitation, and it does change. And we expect that'll change. We expect certainly the phase 1 open topic, which is the most popular, to come back in the next solicitation.
Gotcha. Kate, what is your specialty and what is your day-to-day there with Apex and who you're interfacing with the majority of the time?
Sure. Well, for Apex, I am the director of what's called discovery and engagement. So I lead the process navigation team, which is a team of 12 consultants. And this really is where the magic of Apex happens, because these consultants all come from the small business world, and they are able to help the small businesses through the SBIR STTR process from essentially start to finish. So that's my day-to-day role within Apex. But I come from a university background. I have a PhD in neuroscience and was studying at University of Maryland, Baltimore, before doing a postdoc at the Navy Research Laboratory, and then being a staff scientist at the Air Force Research Laboratory for a while. So I come from an academic research-based background. And then in addition to all of that, I also was active duty for 5 years as a member of the U.S. Navy, and still am a member of the U.S. Navy Reserve. So my background in both the military and the academic research side of the house means that I am able to serve as a translator for the academic institutions. So I outreach to a lot of universities, trying to get them on board with the idea that the Department of the Air Force is offering something different and is really shifting the paradigm when it comes to STTRs in the case of a university. And I can help translate all of the military acronyms, and the military is well known for acronyms, and then the Air Force has its own set of acronyms, and the Navy has its own set of acronyms, and the Army. And so I can help the universities understand the military, and I can help the military understand universities. And so that really is what I do, and honestly what I love to do. So it's a win-win.
That's great.
You'll find that Kate was saying SIBR sitter, and because she has military background, I don't. And so I say SBIR, STTR. So that's part of the acronym soup that the military loves.
Hey, give me those. What is STTR, and give me definitions for those for our audience and for me, because I have no idea.
So the SBIR stands for Small Business Innovative Research. So basically, SBIR is most of the funding in the program. And it doesn't require a university partner, but you can have a university partner as a contractor. So that's some of the main differences. The STTR is Small Business Technology Transfer Research. And an STTR requires you to have a university partner. And sometimes there will be solicitations. We have one right now that with Space Force that requires a university partner. So in those cases, those entrepreneurs, because the money always goes through the entrepreneur, and all the decisions are made by the entrepreneur. but that entrepreneur needs a university partner or they can't go to the dance. They need the dance partner. So in this case, so STTR has some advantages because you do get tied in with universities. You can use a lot of their resources.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially if going that route, a lot of small businesses may go, that's an extra mountain to climb, right? Like now I have to go build this relationship. But if an organization like, if Apex, you have those, now there's a built-in partnership there. Okay, when you mentioned reaching out and having those, and Chris, you've talked about some are required to have those partnerships with the universities. If either of you could give me an example of what is that, like, what is a university's role in all of these? Maybe an example project.
Sure, no problem. We find that small businesses reach out to universities for three main reasons when they are seeking an STTR. They are the fact that a university has access to very large or very expensive pieces of equipment that small businesses just don't have access to. So things like X-ray crystallography machines from the biomedical side of the house, or things like wind tunnels from the aeronautical side of the house, right? Those types of really big and very expensive pieces of equipment that small businesses just don't have and need a university partner for. But also, so that's one reason, is those pieces of equipment. The second reason is the university's bread and butter is high throughput testing, right? They have a lot of graduate students, they have a lot of postdocs that are all researching in labs and have the capability of doing a lot of testing very fast and relatively cheaply as compared with other services that would do those types of testing. And then the third reason we see small businesses reach out to universities most frequently is the fact that the university houses PhDs who have spent 10, 20, 30 years in one very narrowly focused area or field. And the small business has a problem, has a question in that field. And they go to that PhD researcher for a quick solution to their answer. The small business could get the answer, I'm sure, but it might take a year, it might take 6 months. Whereas if they posed that same question to the PhD researcher at the university, they could do it near instantaneously, right? Maybe in a day, maybe in a week, they could have that answer for the small business. And so those are three of the most common reasons we see a partnership. And I think it's important to note that the university small business relationship is not always a cakewalk. Sometimes there is a little bit of frustration involved, probably from both perspectives, but the university sometimes will have a lot of red tape that they have to get through in order to get approval to participate in the STTR. Some universities are a lot better than others. They're much faster than others in cutting through that red tape, but still the red tape exists in almost every university. And also the speed at which a small business must move in order to make money and to be successful as a small business is drastically different from the speed at which the university moves. And so I think that sometimes can cause a lot of friction between the two. And it's important that you start early if you are seeking an STTR partner. It's important that you build in a long runway, so to speak, for you to be able to achieve that partnership. Because if you start too late, it's just never going to happen. As much as the university and the small business would want to partner with each other, there's just some things that are in the way.
Yeah, just to have that mindset and that awareness in the beginning to go, like, just to give them that heads up, like it's twice as long as you think it's going to be. It's going to be this, and this. And a lot of times just that frame can help smooth out a lot of those bumps, I imagine.
Absolutely, yes.
I had a VC once say to me, it always takes twice as much time and twice as much money as you guys say it will. And there's probably a truth to that with the STTR side. And as you said, Jason, that often the entrepreneurs just say, oh, this is too hard, and they walk away. But the STTR has some huge advantages. And what we find is that once somebody has developed a relationship with a university, particularly one that's quick on their feet, it flourishes, and they keep doing STTRs because they win, and the university provides real value. But what we have to tell them, that shows where Apex's role is, that whole idea of getting them there early is really important. So if today somebody wanted to do an STTR and they don't have a university partner and it's due February 10th, we would say, hey, you better get going real fast and you better work with somebody who's done this before, because you're not going to have this. If it's first time for both of you, it's not going to work. However, sometimes you may say, you might think about waiting till the June solicitation, and then you got a lot more time, but still get that relationship started today. And that's good for the university, it's good for the entrepreneur, and it's good for the Air Force because they want to see relationships that have been developed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard a lot of benefits for the entrepreneur to work with the universities. What's that flip side? Is it just that experience for students? Does it go beyond that?
Well, there's dollars. In an STTR, the way it works is that a minimum of 30% of the work and 30% of the dollars have got to go to that university partner. So in an open topic phase one, which can be pretty modest, only $50K, it's still somewhere in the order of $15,000 has to go to the university. But in a phase two, which are typically $750K up to $1.5 million, it starts to turn into real money. So from the university point of view, they would love to to be involved in cases where there should be IP sharing. They also have the opportunity for licensing revenue in the future. So there is a pure monetary part of thing, for them to do that. And professors at research universities are generally measured on how much research dollars they bring into the university. And this is, a way it's a little bit slower go than if MIT is getting, a $7 million contract. It takes a while in SBIR and STTR to make that happen. But for some smaller and not as well-known universities, HBCUs, for example, this is a great way for them to get into the research game. It's something that's required in some cases. The entrepreneurs want to do it, and they have designated, defined amounts of dollars, minimums that have to go to them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Who out there should be looking to really contact Apex to consider working with the Air Force and looking for those, just that revenue channel, that opportunity to break into there?
I think that the small businesses and university entrepreneurs who think they have a technology that could be in any way helpful to the warfighter. So does your technology make the warfighter's life safer? Does it make the warfighter's job more efficient? Does it make the warfighter's quality of life a little bit better in some way? Those are the types of things those are the types of projects that the Air Force and really the DoD across the board is seeking to fund, because of course the warfighter is the most important warfighting tool that the Department of Defense has. And so in order to invest in the warfighter, they need the small businesses and the university entrepreneurs with their good ideas, the best and the brightest ideas, so to speak, to come through their door. And those are the types of companies and university entrepreneurs that Apex could definitely help.
And that's great. A great nugget to latch onto is that main filter is to have that warfighter in mind, right? Like, it's not, I don't know, some just thing that, oh, this is amazing, this is cool. This is like, how does that, if you can answer that question, that's probably a great first step. How does this benefit the warfighter in the end? From the perspective of everything that we've seen from the Air Force, even what they've stated publicly, it seems like innovation is at the forefront of their mind, and doing this entire process of doing business with the private sector, doing things better, faster, and differently than they've done before. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, in fact, the term that the Air Force has used is working at the speed of innovation, and we've seen it, in the programs. It's so much more venture capital-like, and me as a venture capital-oriented person, I see the parallels all the time. The contracting is a lot faster, and the program, the open topic, took some people by surprise, and not everybody is good with it, but it attracts a lot of new entrants, and that's one of the goals: is to take advantage of entrepreneurship and take advantage of innovation in our economy.
Yeah, that's great. So what can somebody, an entrepreneur or university, both, and I know those are two separate approaches here, but what can they expect when they start out in this process and working with Apex? What's sort of step one in that? Obviously some determination, like you mentioned, Chris, if this is even a fit. But then what is that process from timeline to just something that's outside of, of venture capital, of what they would normally experience? What should they expect?
Well, we've offered a number of one-to-many type communications vehicles, webinars that kind of help people decide. They can spend a half an hour or 45 minutes and decide if this is a fit for them. So we describe the programs. We describe typically how it tends to work. If they decide that the Air Force program might be a good fit, we would suggest that when a solicitation opens, that they register with Apex. So they do have to register to get the support, which is no charge to the entrepreneurs due to the fact that we're a program intermediary agreement organization with the Air Force. So the Air Force is paying for these services. Their benefit, of course, is they get a better set of proposals. But if they register with us, then they have the chance to go a little bit deeper. We have one-to-many sessions that are only available to people who've registered, and a high percentage of those people get one-to-one consulting. So the one-to-one consultant is going to sit down with them, and we're very direct. I mean, as Kate mentioned, it's 12 consultants, all of whom have tremendous background. We vary by our technical background, but we all share small business experience. And in a lot of cases, we'll look and say, hey, this is really not going to be a good fit for you, or you should look here because it might be better. So that's the way to get started, because when you get registered, you start to work with a consultant. We'll try to help them as best we can, just looking out for them and looking out for the best results for the program.
That's great. And Kate, what does a university sort of expect in that process?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantages that Apex offers for a university is our matchmaking capability. So universities, oftentimes there will be an entrepreneur at a university who has spun out a company, or there's perhaps a postdoc or a graduate student that knows that they don't want the research life for the rest of their life. They're already thinking about seeking a career outside of academia. And for those types of people, this can be a really great program because we can help them partner with a small business that is interested in the same things they're interested in. So we call this matchmaking. It's on our website, which is apex-innovates.org. And there you can sign up for both the cohorts that Chris was just mentioning and matchmaking. And so we have a list of universities and small businesses that have already said, yes, I'd like to participate in matchmaking. You don't have to sign up. You can just look at the list and see if you would like to be partnered with somebody. If so, then all you have to do is send us an email and we'll make the connection for you. And that's really one of the easiest ways one of the largest advantages to universities, because they are pulled in 1,000 different directions. Everybody at university is so focused on research, and then they have to do a million other things within their department. And sometimes focusing on commercialization of their technology is not at the forefront of what they're trying to do and what they need to do to be successful in the university. So we can help with that by helping them find this partner with which they, with whom they can apply to the STTR.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I would imagine if without somebody, almost a singular role at a university of commercialization of what's going on, like it's such a different mindset. I would imagine that something like Apex, especially, such a resource, right? To be able to have that, even for that singular role with that mindset, So with this approach and this whole dynamic between Apex and entrepreneurs and universities and the Air Force, what are some of those tools and those innovative ways that you're connecting everybody?
That's a great question, Jason, and I think you're spot on. So, the one of the ways that the Air Force is trying to solve this problem of not being able to pick up the phone and call the Air Force and get in contact with the right stakeholder is what's called Air Force and Space Force Tech Connect. And Apex actually had a role in developing this website, but it's a way for the entrepreneur to reach out to the Air Force and the Space Force and have somebody forward their idea for their technology to the right stakeholder, right? The right government stakeholder, which is crucial to the small businesses' success in the SBIR STTR program. The Air Force definitely wants to see that there is somebody in the Air Force who is willing to say, we like this technology, we want this technology, we think it should be developed for reasons X, Y, and Z. And that's what the Air Force and Space Force Tech Connect enables you to do. It enables you to get to at least start the conversation with somebody within the Air Force and the Space Force who can say, yes, this technology is great, or this fits up our alley because of X, Y, and Z. And it really is a way to get the conversation started in an otherwise difficult situation to get the conversation started.
Yeah, that's great because that makes it tangible, right? Like it's not this nebulous, sure, go talk to the Air Force, right? And submit it into the ether and see if it lands on somebody's desk. Because I think that's a lot of, when we think about dealing with the government at all, we think about that part of the process, and that's daunting, right? So this makes it really tangible that someone's going to grab this and they're going to look for somebody, like you said, a stakeholder, somebody who's going to raise their hand at the Air Force and say, yes, this is viable for the next step in the process, or they're going to say no, right? And so there's some answers there, and like I said, something tangible, and that's amazingly helpful. I think we can all imagine some benefits to working with the Air Force and going through that process if we have this product that we think is going to be a really good fit. But why go through all of it that we know we're going to have to go through to do business? Is it simply the dollars, or is there something more to it than that?
Well, the dollars are important. I mean, that everybody who's in this situation knows that the valley of death is real, and getting that early stage funding is tough, and it might not even be available because over the years VCs have actually gotten a little more risk averse because there's lots of other programs, state, local, nonprofit programs that can bring you some money, but the dollars are modest. But this is significant early stage funding because even in the phase one approach or open topic approach from the Air Force, it's $50K, and they're basically giving you that funding to help you develop a customer from the Air Force. But then the follow-on is $750K. So now it's some real money. But another thing is that the Air Force has been very open about the fact that they eventually want to buy products from entrepreneurs. That's the goal of this thing. And they want to get customers. They want you to get to what in the SBIR STTR parlance is phase 3. Phase 3 doesn't eat any dollars from the program, but it says that an agency, whether it's Homeland Security or Department of Energy or the Air Force, is buying things from you. The Air Force wants to buy things from you so you can get customers. And interestingly, that will let you get more capital because once you have customers, VCs say that, hey, you have traction. And now that you have traction, we're a lot more interested in the fact that the Air Force has funded you to the tune of almost $1 million. That gets interesting to them. And in fact, the Air Force has programs that will match dollars from VCs. So from the VC's point of view, that's non-dilutive capital. They're saying, hey, if I come up with $2 million more, the Air Force might come up with another $1 million. VCs like that. And then the last thing is if you're using STTR right, it really is a low-cost way to make your technology come together and to ease those costs that you're going to have to bear. You're going to have to test your product. You're going to have to do some research. So those 4 things are just things that will help you. So you want to get that early stage funding, you want to get customers, you want to get more funding, and you want to make sure your development costs are as low as possible. And this program just helps that all happen.
That's great. I love that distinction too, because as we were going through this, my mind is on that phase 1, phase 2. Okay, I'm getting funded. I'm forgetting about that. Honestly, I was forgetting just about that end goal of like, okay, yes, and then now we're going to buy your products. That's a great distinction and a great mindset to get in of like, and just like you said, they're basically funding you so that they can then become a customer of yours. So what's next? What's that next evolution of Apex?
We are always seeking to grow our network. So we invite all university entrepreneurs and small business entrepreneurs to connect with us on our social media sites. We have LinkedIn and Twitter, as well as our website, which is apex-innovates.org. Feel free to reach out to us in any of those platforms. We would love to have a conversation with you to see how we can help you, because ultimately that's what we're here to do. We're here to help the entrepreneurs get connected with the right people within the Department of the Air Force. So we would love to do that for you if you think that you have a technology that could be of interest to the Department of the Air Force.
Fantastic. Thank you both for being on. This has been really great. I really appreciate it, and I hope it opens up somebody's eyes to some additional opportunities.
Thank you so much for having us. It's really been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of this show. If you ever need help building out custom strategies for your business or deciding what actions to take next, head over to MediaLeadsCo.com and let's connect. I'll talk to you soon on the next Strategy and Action.